Don't let the cynicism of grossly overpriced and unnecessary remakes take over. The Last of Us still stands as one of the best games of the past decade. Very little of what it does is unique to it, but there's a gravitas to every game beat that comes from a place of sheer sincerity. And its opening is tailor-made to draw a player in. Shockingly, the marketing contributes to why its first 10 minutes were so powerful. Ellie was the focal point, the trailers showed her off, the interviews discussed her character and involvement in detail, and the box art of all 3 releases, Jesus Christ, showcases her like a franchise mascot. So, if you saw a clip like this,
the core of The Last of Us is really about the bond between Joel and Ellie.
And then the game opens like this.
What are you still doing up? It's late.
Crud, what time is it?
It's way past your bedtime.
But it's still today.
Any discerning player is likely to predict that Sarah would die. She's not on the box art, and if she doesn't die, why would Joel abandon his daughter to the apocalypse and help some other child? This assumption, made by a player who's seen the adverts or hell, read the plot synopsis on the back of the game case, means the entire opening is cloaked in foreboding and tension. Just a burst in a raw, emotionally devastating moment where the game's cast act their asses off. Was that on purpose? I don't think so, but I don't really think that matters. The outcome is the same, and that's not the only trick this opening has up its sleeve. So, let's overanalyze it and break it down. This is the first 10 minutes.
Tommy, listen to me. He is the contractor. He's the contractor, okay? I can't lose this job. I understand.
The key thing to note is how Joel is characterized prior to the outbreak. He's not the cold, hardened survivor he'll eventually grow into. Instead, he's vulnerable and scared. Our first introduction to him is a man desperately trying to negotiate a building contract, but clearly losing that fight. Bills, employment, mortgage debt, and tension with family are weighing on him, and the only thing that lights up his evening is a gift from his daughter Sarah. A watch to replace his current broken one. A watch that will also break before sunrise. We'll see this Joel come out of Troy Baker's performance a few more times before the title card appears. He stutters over his words when the shit hits the fan. His voice breaks and his hands shake after killing someone for the first time. He'll even eventually beg. But we'll get there. For now, I want to focus more on how the camera and transitions are used. Across the whole game, we'll get hard cuts, ripping the player out of one time period and throwing us a few hours or minutes into the future. They don't fade in or use any fancy transition tricks. They're blunt, regularly coming without warning, purposefully disorienting us and resetting the tension. The first time it happens, it's kind of innocuous and innocent. Sarah falls asleep on the couch, and then we cut ahead to Joel putting her to bed. But the second time signals something much more ominous. Sarah awakens in the quiet of night. The background noise is still there, but it's so subtle you could almost describe it as eerie silence. A negative noise after the crackle and rumble of the television in the previous scene, just to be broken by the shrill ringing of her phone. Taking control of Sarah is one of the best choices The Last of Us makes. The camera perspective is high up, higher than it eventually will be when we control Joel, making her seem so small in the geography of the house. We're guided by light as she searches for her dad. Chiaroscuro, a lighting technique that relies heavily on contrast, is on full display here. We're organically led to Joel's bedroom by the light of the TV, so we don't miss the news report telling us the outbreak has begun. The same happens again when Joel's phone lights up in the kitchen, leading us to see Tommy's frantic texts, heightening the sense that something is very, very wrong. Despite the slow burn here, this opening is perfectly paced. Yes, we are stuck in a forced walking section as Sarah, but it doesn't last long at all, and the attention to detail with her animations, the yawning, the sloped posture, the little stretches, reminds us that she's just gotten out of bed. This is all lovely and believable. It also means there is zero sense of empowerment after our first infected is killed.
Jimmy!
Dad?
Come here, come here. Jimmy! Jimmy, stay back! Jimmy, I am warning you!
This is how our first monster dies. Not at our hands, but at the hands of someone bigger and stronger than us, and even he panics and looks away when the gun goes off. Bringing the camera back so this feels less like a cutscene and more like a moment of gameplay adds to its weight. It makes the tension seem more real, and this is tenfold for almost every camera trick from this point on. The main way that The Last of Us positions its cutscenes as visceral and frenetic is in how it makes a camera feel like it's handheld. Even at the start, when Joel and Sarah are sitting on the couch together, there are tiny sways. Not so much that the intimacy of their relationship is lost, this isn't distracting, but it does connect us to the game world in a way that makes the moments of horror or drama seem much more believable. The disempowerment of the player through Sarah is knocked on the head a few final times in the car journey. Tommy arrives at the house and everyone bundles into the car, trying to leave the city, but Sarah, through dint of being a child, has no agency over what happens next, so neither does the player. We need to watch voiceless and voteless as Joel and Tommy bicker about which way to go, or how to talk about the outbreak in front of a child, or what to do about a family of hitchhikers.
See what they need. Who do you think you're doing? Keep driving.
I got a kid, Joel.
So do we.
But we have room.
Keep driving, Tommy.
Even before Sarah's death, Joel's coldness and cynicism comes through. Tommy wants to pick up and help the family, but Joel orders him with menace in his voice to keep driving. His priorities are laid out for us here. He looks after his own, no matter the cost. If there's even a small chance some strangers will put Sarah in harm's way, he's going to discard them. Every second of every minute of this opening is concentrated on solidifying how much Joel cares about Sarah, just to tear it all down before the game truly begins. With a crash and another thick cut to black, the slow, breeding tension of controlling Sarah is ripped away from us and we finally take control of Joel. But the player is still vulnerable. This isn't a Joel with a brick in one hand and revolver in the other, it's a Joel who's got to carry Sarah to safety. Where Sarah had to rely on Joel to protect her, Joel has to rely on Tommy here, handing over his gun and ordering him to keep them safe. We, the player, are suddenly in a position where we need to rely on Tommy, or rather Tommy's AI, to keep us alive. Buildings are on fire, people are screaming and running all around us. There's a couple of cool explosions for good measure, but this isn't some action-packed rollick through zombie-laden streets. The sheer terror of the outbreak is brought to us by how helpless we have felt and continue to feel. We even get jumped, and the only option for the player is to mash a QuickTime event until Tommy saves us to hammer it all home. When we're eventually separated from Tommy, that's when the game gives us a couple of infected that don't just look like they're trying to kill you, but are actively chasing Joel up this ridge. The previous infected could get you, but that was mainly so the player would stay on the intended path. Their AI isn't all that dangerous and will generally ignore Joel. Sorry for killing any immersion from the opening there. But after Tommy stays behind and we're without our protector, that is when the game tosses a couple of real threats at us. But anyone who's seen a zombie movie lately knows that they are not the real threat.
It's okay, baby. We're safe. We're safe. Hey, we need help.
Stop!
Please. It's my daughter. I think her leg is broken.
Stop right there!
Okay. We're not sick.
With our 10 minutes almost up, The Last of Us shows how its quick-fire pacing doesn't undermine the grit and density of its emotional beats. The handheld camera, the playing as Sarah, the sense of vulnerability, the hard cuts, and the layering of tension have all been leading here, to the moment when Sarah is shot and killed by a soldier. It's the back and forth that happens just before her death that carves this moment out for me. The soldier saves us, but then he points his gun at us. But then Joel reassures Sarah that they're about to be rescued. But then the soldier is clearly ordered to open fire. A metronome of tension is switched on, and it ticks back and forth until Joel is lying in the dirt. He looks up at the soldier, and two key words leave his lips. Please don't. He begs. At a moment of true weakness, it's all he thinks he can do. And after this day, begging and vulnerability are locked squarely in his thoughts, associated with the worst thing that ever happened to him. After this opening, Joel never begs again. Hey, thanks for watching. This is just a wee video while we get Lore Dump set up. We're recording the Union Cross episodes next week, and I'm currently working on an Evil Within critique that will be out soon as well. Massive shout out to my patrons scrolling up the left side of the screen, links in the description if you want to join them, but a cheeky like and subscribe is more than enough. Order of thanks go to Chachizvaz76, Paul Ryan, Jack, Borna Isragi, Neil Mack, Sam's Forge, Joey Isbell, Aurelia, Schwabalaba, Kristen Fenchel, Neon Leah, Saint Allison, Patrick Baird, LGX, Brian Sapp, Nicholas Chemin, Trevor Vernon, Mark Anderson, Kay Dansky, Joe Wilcox, Pleo, Gavastrion, Blank Name, Gin Rummy, Biased Ballas, Unholy Biscuit, Uzair, Leon, Matthew Sinclair Thompson, Justin Johnson, X Rights, Shamax, Tibigalanu, Aiden, Jonathan Riggs, Ace Attorney Fan 621, Zachary Johnson, Daxter TK421, DNSCH, Martin Gribben, Jordan S, Jared Trainham, Nick, Damp Gibbon, Monicari, Kieran Gresty, Lamar825, Jeremy Shore, Ike N, The All Brand Man, Jake, Tempe, Courtney Wampler, Anthony Holder, David J. Moran, Minato, Callum Armitage, Christopher Tierney, Torstein Sunness, Fipsy, Derek DeRosia, Luca, Tommins, Sammy Stuff, Jaguke, Jordan, Alberto Callas, Lee, Austin Long, Type Raz, Dini, Zachary Powers, Andrew Munoz, Compulsory Fungus, Dank Hank, Prospero, Newan Guterres Nopoff, Alan Black, Callsign Nor, David Bedard, CC, Jared Helfer, Mukor, John Fosterag, Robert Capel, Matt McCulloch, Guillaume Barreros, Ethan, Paul W, Chief Sweep, Ehor May, Jonathan Lum, Eddie Wingfors, Reese, Strupp, Angry Optimist, Yana Grasfrau, Laura Possum, Long Cheddar, Jordan Halsey, Toxter, Donis Conva, Ashley Broning, 100 Sams, My Friend Neil, Michael Diaz, Nathaniel Waters, Dinkin Pearson, Kyle Pears, Seb Scott, Lonely Ronan, Chris Bread, Kane Highwind, and Neve Care. Thank you all so much and take care.